Everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and I've got John, the music nut, back to the channel. How's it going, John?
I'm doing well, Peter. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We are going to talk about a band that we haven't covered on this channel called the Cramps, and we're going to put a bit of a spotlight on this little album, A Date with Elvis from 1986. So the Cramps formed in 1976. Basically, they're wrapped around two principles, and that's Lux Interior, who's the lead vocalist, and Poison Ivy, the guitarist. They've had many folk been in various lineups. You know, a lot of albums, Bad Music for Bad People, the Cramps, Gravest Hits. You can see I'm a little bit of a fan. Psychedelic Jungle, a lot of live albums, live in Auckland. And the Cramps Stay Sick, and I've got a ton of stuff on CD as well. Wonderful.
Nice.
Now, my history with this band is I saw them in August 1986. So as an impressionable 18-year-old, wow, really sort of changed my life. Seriously, it was a game changer just to see this band live. They were just ferocious. Lux Interior was one of the most captivating front men I've ever seen. He was sort of like part Iggy Pop, bit of Lou Reed, just completely bonkers, completely demented. Now, the sonics of this band, you can say it's rockabilly, it's garage rock. There's definitely a punk element, R&B, classic old-time rock and roll. John, what did you know about the Cramps, and did you have any sort of encounters or dealings with them in the day?
I knew who they were. I knew they were a psychobilly band. I knew that people who liked punk liked the Cramps. But I didn't really, I knew what their sound was, but none of my friends had any of their albums. I got to know them more when my brother introduced me to Reverend Horton Heat, who came along in the 90s. So when I found them, then I knew about the Cramps. And what I understand is the Cramps are very high on Reverend Horton Heat. They said, well, they were like the next band to do the psychobilly sound. They had a song called Psychobilly Freakout. So that was how I knew the Cramps. And like throughout my life, the people I know who like the Cramps are also into old school punk, old school rockabilly. So when this album came out, I was still a hard rock, heavy metal guy. And as time went on, I was expanding my genres, but I didn't really get into the psychobilly sound till the 2000s, I'd say. But I didn't buy this album until you asked me to do this show.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you bought it. Look, it was a really interesting cross section of folk that were at this show. There were punks, there were a lot of goths, there was the
Yes.
rockabillys, and there were just straight out flat rock and roll fans like myself that saw the show. So it was a real cross section, and it's one of those gigs where a lot of people say, "Were you at that gig?" It was it drew a lot of people in. And I have to say, it's probably one of my favorite concert experiences of all time. It left such an impression on me. So, as we always do, we're going to talk about the album, maybe just talk about the songs. If you don't mind, John, we could just go song by song.
Sure.
And tell the folk and get a bit more of a picture of who the Cramps are and their story. So how about we go to the first song? How far can too far go?
Well, very catchy and rollicking. Throughout this album, you got a lot of risque lyrics. But the songs are so infectious that you're not really being offended by them. I wasn't offended by them. But the lyrics on here, I mean, I don't know if they cross over to the airwaves these days, but I mean, when I listen to this, I think it's a fun album. And one thing about this album throughout, Poison Ivy, she loses a lot of distortion and feedback in her guitar lines.
Oh,
So
phaser. Yeah, they
yes, uh-huh, absolutely.
love
So
it.
yeah, great tune.
It's only got a couple of chords, but they've got their roots back into R&B and classic blues rock and roll. And I was
Right.
thinking the White Stripes are not too far out the wheelhouse of this band,
No, yeah, I
except
agree with that.
this band is kind of more wacky. They're a sort of a pot puree of trash. They love trash culture. If you look at the website, and they've done a lot of compilation albums, they're into 60s movie, bad Roger Corman B movies, Russ Meyer movies. When you look at the compilation albums, they like songs by like Surfing Bird, Trashman. And when I say trash, I say that complimentary because it's sort of
Yes.
that kitschy sort of garage rock with a lot of fuzz, and it's just a lot of fun. But there is, you know, behind the facade of the imagery and the outrageousness and the anarchy, they are a very classic sounding band. They have, their roots are definitely paying faithful homage to, the old bands like your Chuck Berrys and what. Would you not agree?
Oh no, I would definitely agree with that. And the sound with this album, outside of that snare drum, this sounds timeless. The snare drum does sound a little 80s because it's a little shiny, but and even a lot of people probably would think I'm being nitpicky a little bit there, but this sounds like it could have came out in 1958, or it can sound like it came out now because as time went on, a lot more bands were going lo-fi with their recordings, and they were looking back in time trying to replicate that sound because nearly everything has been done. But here, what they do is they have these great, catchy psychobilly songs with these crazy lyrics, and Lux Interior's got charisma out the wazoo.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what comes out of the speakers. You hear the
Mm-hmm.
personality, you hear the charisma. And, I can't not say straight off the bat, Elvis, it's like a psycho Elvis. He's
Yeah,
really doing the sort of the crooning of Elvis, but amplified. It's sort of like projecting more Elvis than Elvis, if there's such a thing. Um, about the drumming, Nick Knox, he
mm-hmm.
reminds me of a Bunny Carlos. Simple, primal, but so
Yep,
effective. It drives the
yes.
band along. So when I saw the band in 1986, it was Lux Interior, obviously, on vocals. You had Poison Ivy. Nick Knox was on the drums. He had the dark sunglasses, had a cigarette, just
Mm-hmm.
just playing. And the bass player was Candy Damar, and she reminded me, kind of had that Ginger from Gilligan's Island feel. She was just
Oh, nice.
swooning, and there's a lot of sex in this band, a lot of sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
It's just cheeky, it's fun. But look, I agree. This song, lyrics like "Stick 'em up, baby, reach for the sky. Here's something you might like to try. I know a place that's far from here where the squares they won't come near." So you get a kind of a feel, tongue
Mm-hmm.
in cheek, what this album's going to be like. The Hot Pearl Snatch. Wonder what that's about. Over to you,
Oh,
John.
yeah. All right. I'm not gonna get into lyrics so much. I think you do that much better than I do. But yeah, again, simple, catchy drum pattern. We just got this straight just the straight up rock and roll song. The solos here by Poison Ivy, she's not reinventing the wheel. She's just a lot of times she's just working around the rhythm, and they're just very lyrical solos that you could sing. Simple, but you could sing them. And on this track, they're just riding the groove. It's just a really cool tune. It keeps that same momentum going from the first track. How far could too far go? So, yep, another winner.
I think she's very underrated. I think she is a really good guitarist. You don't have to be flashy, but her twangy tonality and just her guitar lines are a part of the sound. I think she's great. This song I wrote down for some reason reminded me of a soundtrack to a film called Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine, starring Vincent Price. Remember, Vincent Price played this mad scientist and he created these fembots. Talking to you, Austin Powers, who ripped this off, but it had that sort of trashy feel to it, and the rhythm. It's got this really deep groove rhythm and blues. It swings. But I had this. A lot of these songs remind me of these B movies or drive-in movies.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, this song would be great on this movie. Have you ever seen that or heard of it? Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine.
Nope, I have not.
Check it out. Check it out. All right. People Ain't No Good.
Not to be confused with Nick Cave. Okay. Which was that great piano ballad from The Boatman's Call. This one we got the McMartin Preschool Choir on here. And it just brings this new edge to this song. It's pretty cool when you got Lux singing his thing and then the choir going, people ain't no good. It's just so catchy and irresistible. Again, just on a song like this, you really see or hear Lux's endless charisma. Like some of these songs, it's like David Lee Roth but even more over the top. Because a lot of he does like a lot of ad-libbing on this song. But another really catchy song, and the nothing flashy. The solo, it just works right around the rhythm again. That's the thing about this album. I mean, no clunkers. It all works very well together. It works very well as a piece. This is one of the songs that I spotlight as one of my favorites too.
Oh, it's a cracker of a song. I think it's complete lunacy.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love Lux's vocals. He kind of hyperventilates. He's going,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's sort of part Elvis and part hyperventilating.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids' choir when they chime in with People Ain't No Good. Yeah, just a sheer lunacy. Mm-hmm. And his vocals, he's part preacher, part crooner. No, I love it.
Yeah.
I think this is an outstanding track. And I'll go another one. He out Iggy's Iggy. So he's out Iggy. He's out Elvising Elvis on this album.
There you go.
What's Inside a Girl? This got a bit of radio airplay in the day on alternative radio in Australia. What do you think about this song?
The delivery reminds me of Blue Suede Shoes. I mean, it's set up just like that. But again, it's dirtier. The guitar lines are, very memorable, and it's just irresistible. Again, it's very cool.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best, and I love the twangy, pulsating, twanging guitar and twangy bass. You listen to the bass; it's really brought up in the song. Ivy is the hero of this song, and a lot of her influence to folks that may not be aware was there was a bass player that played in the Bo Diddley band called Norma Jean Wofford, who was called the Duchess, and a bit of a groundbreaker. And, you can see that a lot of her Ivy's persona or inspiration does come from the Duchess. And boy, does she play that Gretsch hollow body guitar like nothing else. This band, when I saw them live, I mean, I saw them in 1986, a long time ago, and I saw them in 1990, so I've seen them a few times. And your eyes are on, actually, your eyes are on everybody, but Lux does capture a lot of your sort of what you're seeing in the audience, but a lot of the time you're seeing Poison Ivy, she kind of swoons. There's just so much sexuality and charisma. So,
Oh yes.
um, Can Your Pussy Do the Dog? This was another song that got a little bit of airplay. What do you know about this? What do you think about this
Yeah,
song?
I have written down here. This was a single in the UK. Really cool bridge on this one. And like I've said about previous songs on here, close your eyes, it sounds like 1958 on this. Um, really cool tune. The drums here, I think, sound a little more modern than the rest of the album. I think maybe that's why they put it out as a single, maybe to cross over. But again, just straight up cool rockabillys. What I have written down here, it's a cool tune, and we got a cool bridge on it as well, which you know a bridge when well done makes the song even better.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is one of the more traditional songs of theirs. It's got some traditional rock lines. It's got R&B. I love the bending of the strings, where it's a little bit out of tune and they're just bending it
Hmm.
as far as they can do. Builds up to a nice crescendo and a lot of feedback. But this is a showstopper song. This album, this is side one, folks, and it's just so strong.
Yeah.
Um, Kiss My Ass. I love this. It just, you know, 35 years later, Kiss My Ass. What do you think of this song? I get
All
it.
right, here you got um Luxury and Poison Ivy harmonizing. And you got two nice bridges on here. This sounds like laid back 60s garage rock. It sounds like if you live in the States, it sounds like, and if you have Sirius XM, it sounds like something you'd hear on Little Steven's Underground Garage. That was the first thing that popped out at me when I heard this song. But and this is another outstanding track on here. This isn't as noisy as a lot of the songs. Here they just play it straight. Like a lot of these songs, there's there's some really noisy guitar solos, a lot of and it's got this really primitive feel with the drums. This just sounds like something straight out of like 1966, like the Sonics or something, but not quite, but more laid back than the Sonics would be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think this is like where the Cramps meet a bit of B-52s. I can imagine the B-52s
Mm-hmm.
doing this if they went a little bit more retro with Kate Pearson. Maybe it's the harmonies. And again, you've got the twangy guitar lines, and it's a little out of tune, but it just adds to the flavor.
Yeah.
I like this song, but I thought it's a nice play of words. Kiss my
Yes.
ass.
Yeah.
All
Definitely.
right. So the next song is Corn Fed Dames. What do you think of this one?
It starts out, you think Link Ray. That's the first thing I thought because it just starts out with those chords and those space and that space between the notes, trying to bring in that kind of feel, and then it becomes this. Once Lux kicks in with the vocal, it becomes this kick-ass fast rockabilly song. You got an extended solo here from Poison Ivy, and it just got this great groove going on that really takes you in. Very noisy, as excuse me, as I was saying. This sounds more again with the Shake It Baby vocals on there and the ad libbing again. You hear Lux's charisma really come out. And this is the longest track, but it doesn't feel long because it once Lux kicks in with the vocal, it just the song and the feel just devours you. It's just a fun rocking track.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of these hyperventilating vocals where he's
Yeah.
really, really getting excited. There's a lot of excitement in his vocals. He just gets so overly stimulated and just goes for it. Calling all the cows down on the farm. Hey, shut the door. You're born in a barn. Now I ain't no farmer. That no fun. It's just lunacy. I love it. It's just a
Yeah.
lot of fun. If you can't listen to this album, don't have a smile on your face. Well, I don't understand. Chicken. Bop, bop, okay. What do you think of this song? Sorry, I had to do that.
That's all good. I mean, it's catchy and comical, is what I said. They didn't write this one. It's was listed as traditional under the writers, but the drumming's really is more kinetic on this. And again, Lux's charisma on full display.
Yeah. What about Poison Ivy's finger picking? It's really
Oh
sublime. She
yes,
really does it. And how do you goes for 1 minute 40? I think I've heard this song before. I have to research it, but yeah, it is a traditional song, and I've heard a lot of blues artists do this. So I think it's a bit of Americana. It's one of those songs that have been around for a while, but
right.
it really suits the personality um, of this band, and especially Lux. But all right, Hot Pool of Woman Need. Even just reading the song titles, I think you get an understanding that this is going to be a little bit of a humorous album. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, very dirty. Rhythm's carrying this one. You got a cool walking bass line that kind of goes in and out of the mix. Um, Catchy as sin. Um,
I like you
as,
use the word sin because there's a lot of sin on this album.
there you go. Yeah,
It's like, yeah, see the sin.
there you go. The CD version now.
Yeah. It's like Elvis has found his sin mojo. He's really because
Exactly.
it's like an X-rated Elvis.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I love the drumming on this. It really claps down hard. Out of all the drumming on this album, this particular song, it's really got a heavy beat. Just claps down hard. Did you notice that?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I love the rockabilly, feverish rockabilly lines of this song. So um listening to this album, in the 80s, there was a little bit of a rockabilly revival around the world. In the UK, it was the early 80s. Um, you had sort of faux Elvis artists like Shakin' Stevens,
I remember
Major
him.
Matchbox. And then in America, in around 82, you had Stray Cats. Um, could you see a band like this to sort of be in that wheelhouse and have a little bit of commercial success if they had a bit more push and were on a major label, or are they just too far out there?
A little too far out there. Yeah, it musically not so much. I don't think the lyrics would have. I don't know if they would have gotten on the airways with them. I mean, I think they were just going to be no matter if they came out any time. Well, if they got a bit of a push, I don't know if it would have stuck. Like they would have had this. They would have been what they became. They would have had this strong cult following. The people who really knew them really loved them, but I don't know. I don't think they would have crossed over like the Stray Cats did. Well, when they were big in the UK first
Mm,
before they hit over here with Built for Speed, which was like the best of their first two albums in UK.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't think it would have quite broken through here. Though we would have loved them, but I don't think you would have heard them on FM radio. I mean, well,
yeah,
maybe you might have heard them on a college station, but I don't know if you would have heard them on your pop stations.
yeah, yeah. Well, the Cramps actually had their biggest commercial success in the UK because Bikini Girls with Machine Guns actually hit the top
Right,
40. This album hit the top 40. But you look at the American chart action, and there's not really any chart action. So I think they
right.
were a bit more of a cult act. But just to give you an indication that they weren't just pigeonholed into this sort of genre of what we've been describing. There's a horror movie called Near Dark. It was a vampire film directed by Catherine Bigelow in 1987, and there's a pivotal action scene where the vampires go into this, I think it's a Texas bar, and they create havoc. On the jukebox, there's the Peggy Lee song Fever, which is
Okay.
sung by the Cramps. And
Hmm.
it's actually one of their more iconic songs. And Lux has really got that swoon. And it's less humorous. It's kind of more, a little bit more straighty 180, but it shows that this band didn't have a limited palette. They were able to interpret and play it straight when required. So I think that they could probably shift and they could have gone down that path, but just for albums like this, they just wanted to create their own universe of
Yes.
larger than life, go dancing, Russ Meyer, bad movies, pop culture, that sort of style. But if you haven't heard it, Fever, it's a really good rendition. And look, a lot of their songs were in a lot of movie soundtracks. Another one was The Return of the Living Dead. I'm sure one of their songs was in that movie. So,
Mhm.
all right, Aloha from Hell. What do you think of this one?
This riff is like so infectious. Again, it feels like 58 when it's opening. It's just two chords and it just takes you in. It kicks ass. It's just just killer rockabilly tune here. Very cool.
Surf rock?
Yeah, and this is closer to surf rock. You hear like a little of that Dick Dale
Yeah.
sound a little bit.
When he's just
Hmm.
going down the scale.
Right. Yeah. And Dick Dale, I mean, he was somebody who was around forever, and he had a little bit of success early, but in the 90s he started making a comeback again. Yeah, Dick Dale's stuff from the 90s was excellent. I mean, and like many people, I didn't hear him until Mr. Lou was in the Pulp Fiction movie. So yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a great song. Great song. Um, and then
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, and both Dick Dale and the Cramps were actually in episodes of Beverly Hills 90210 here in the States as well, back in the 90s. So they were always trying to get some hit band on once in a while. And they got them different shows, of course, but they got them both on there.
yeah. Well, maybe they just weren't meant to be commercial and they just had a vision and this is our world. And, sometimes over time people catch up. Um,
Exactly.
bands are just not made for the times and people do catch up. And unfortunately, Lux is no longer with us, died way too early. And,
Yes.
you know, it's not to be. It's just that song, the finale to the album. What do you think of this one?
An old Charlie Feathers song. By far the slowest song on the album. This was recorded as a B-side to one of his singles in 1976. This by far, to me, sounds more like Elvis. It because it's slower and it's kind of like a sorrowful ballad of sorts. Now you listen to this, that's the first thing you think is Elvis. Yeah, it's funny how something like this will end what sounds like a near nonstop party, but it is a cool ending, Maybe the hangover after the party's over.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a really mighty fine end to the album. It's kind of like a torch song. And, Lux is sounding very Elvis-y. There's a lot of vibrato. I love the phase guitar. And it's sort of slowed down. It's a nice
Mhm.
finish to this album. But
No doubt.
there you have it, the Cramps. What do you think of the album?
I give us an 8.5. I think this is very, very good. And I mean, I've only had this maybe about 6 weeks or so, but as time goes on, I think this will probably go higher in my rankings. Yep.
There you go, the inner sleeve in the day.
And we got this was the re-release that came out in 2014 on their own Vengeance Records, and the CD actually came in its own. It came in its own little separate slot here. And even when you look at this looks like an old record, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love these CDs that look like old school 60s records. And we got bonus tracks on this one too. Yeah, this actually has 15 songs, and this actually wasn't put out in the States until 1990, which I didn't realize until I did a little bit of research. But with the bonus tracks, I think they were all like classic rockabilly songs, but my favorite is Get Off the Road, where Poison Ivy does the full vocals on that. And it starts with this motorcycle and a conversation in the background, and it's catchy, so catchy. It makes you wish that Poison Ivy had done more vocals with them.
Yeah.
Do you have the original with the 11 tracks
Of what?
of A Date with Elvis? Yeah, because mine is bonus tracks.
Yeah, I've got this, which I bought in the day,
Okay.
which is just the straight album,
Looks
no bonus tracks, and I've got a CD, but it doesn't have bonus tracks. So I think it must have been the edition before the special edition that came out.
okay.
But
Gotcha.
folks, look, I don't think you can do much wrong. There's a lot of great live albums. There's so many live albums. So I go to my local record store, Red Eye Records in Sydney, go to Cramps, and there are so many live concert albums of the Cramps off the soundboard, really high quality. So perhaps their best work was live, where you listen to it and you go, this is wacky, this is a lot of anarchy, but you don't fully appreciate and realize it until you see the live experience. It's on YouTube, but I still have this feeling there's got to be a definitive anthology's got to come out where there's a live show or something that's remastered and put it out to the masses so they understand what a truly great band this was.
Absolutely.
So if you like rockabilly, if you like punk, you like classic R&B, and folks, it's not too far outside the wheelhouse of White Stripes, is it, John?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. And they got just a much more wicked sense of humor.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, John. As always, great to have you on the show. You can check John on My Music Corner, Grant's Rock Warehouse, The Contrarians, Tim's Vinyl Confessions. If I've missed any, it'll be on the link in this show. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Tell us what you think of the Cramps. Tell us what you think of this album. What's your favorite Cramps album? What's your favorite song? But one thing's for sure, you'll see John and I doing another show, gas bagging about rock and roll in 2024. See you soon. Cheers.